Hey guys, what's going on? Jake Truitt here. Welcome back to the next episode of my podcast series, Cinema Time. I hope that you're all having an amazing weekend and that you all had an amazing week this past week. Also, something I mentioned in the first episode that I have decided to change a little bit about this podcast. I told you guys the episodes were going to run about 15 minutes a piece. Some may run about 15 minutes roughly, some may run a little bit longer, some may even run into the hour long or hour and a half long mark. It only just depends on what comes to mind and what film or TV show we are discussing that week. So without further ado, let's dive right into episode 2. Today we're going to be talking about the film Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. For those of you who don't know what this movie is, it is a horror/comedy movie that came out in 2010. It is rated R with a runtime of an hour and 29 minutes. Some of the cast members include Tyler Labine, Alan Tudyk, Eli Craig, Katrina Bowden, Shelly-Ann Simmons, Jesse Moss, Travis Nelson, and a few others. Out of all those names, the one name who might sound the most familiar to you guys is Alan Tudyk. Some of you may know the name right away. If you don't know him, he is from the new series Resident Alien. He has also been in A Knight's Tale, Firefly, Moana, Dodgeball, Wish, Wreck-It Ralph, and many other movies. He is one of the funniest characters in the movie, and he also is just a hilarious actor in general. If you have not seen Resident Alien, I recommend going to watch it. You will not regret it, I promise. So, a little bit about Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. It is a horror/comedy film. It received a 85% Rotten Tomatoes rating. Again, I think Rotten Tomatoes should have given it a little bit better of a rating, but it was made back in the year 2010, so some of the horror effects were a little bit cheesy back then, only because it is comedic as well. So that is what they gave it, but I personally would give it a 95 or 96% rating. If you would like to watch the movie Tucker and Dale vs. Evil, you can watch it on streaming platforms such as Tubi TV, Peacock, Pluto TV, Sling TV, Plex, Amazon Prime Video, and more. It says that the film is, in a nutshell, gruesome and hysterical. I can definitely attest to both of those. It is very gruesome. Again, it is a movie that has a lot of blood, mainly more gore than anything. So if you are someone who does not have a strong stomach, I do not recommend watching this movie. But on the other hand, it is also hysterical. It is a comedy, and I guarantee that even though it's gruesome, if you're somebody who can't handle that kind of stuff, the jokes of this film and just everything overall will definitely help you look past all of the blood and gore, essentially, even though the movie throws it right into your face, pretty much. The two main stars of the film, Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, play two scruffy backwoods pals who take a backwoods vacation, and their vacation takes a bloody turn when ignorant college students mistake them for a pair of murderous hillbillies. Now that's kind of funny because that's actually a stereotypical thing, that hillbillies that live in the backwoods and the cabins with just woods surrounding them and everything are supposedly killers or serial killers. At least that's what a lot of people have heard, because whenever people go camping in the woods, essentially they hear, "Oh, did you hear about old man Billy over there in the cabin across the lake? Yeah, I heard he murdered a bunch of people." But you know, those are just stereotypical stories just made up to scare people. They're obviously not real. But the film itself, it's set up like a horror movie, but it's really not a horror movie though, because you think horror, you think jump scare, scary stuff, lots of blood, lots of gore. Yes, there is lots of blood and gore in this movie, but it's not really scary because it's what's the best way to describe it? It's just more funny than anything. I've seen this movie about at least maybe 20 or 30 times. I'm not even kidding. Like, it came out back in 2010. That was 14 years ago. My God, I sound old when I say that, but yeah, it came out in 2010 and I've seen it so many times. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's just one of those movies that you could honestly watch over and over and over again, and you would never grow tired of it. You would never grow tired of the jokes. You would never grow tired of the comedic things and scenes that happen. And it's just overall like it's honestly very underrated. It's a movie also that a lot of people don't know about. Like I've asked several people, including some of my friends, if they've ever seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil. A lot of people say they have, but more people say they haven't seen it, and I'm honestly surprised. And then when I start to show them the trailer, then parts of it stick out and they're like, oh, I've heard of this movie, but I've never seen it. So I recommend, if you have not seen Tucker and Dale versus Evil, definitely go watch it. Now, something I did not do in the first episode of my podcast that I plan to start doing in episodes is to talk about different parts of the movie, such as my favorite parts of the movie. So, spoiler alert, you have been warned now. If you have not seen these movies and shows that I'm about to mention in my podcast, then I definitely recommend going to watch whatever movie or show of the week we're talking about before listening to my podcast, because as I said, spoiler alert, I will be talking about things that happened in the movie or show. You have been warned. Anyway, let's continue on. So this film was directed by Eli Craig. It had a budget of $5 million, so back in 2010, that was quite a bit. But the box office, it only made $5.2 to $5.5 million, so it didn't make much more than what it did to make the film. Like I said, it was back in 2010. It was a lot different back then. Some people would think it's a cheesy film, but it's honestly not, in my personal opinion. It was distributed by Magnolia Pictures. So basically, in this film, Tucker and Dale are two best friends that are hillbillies, and basically they are on their way to a vacation home that they plan to fix up. But prior to them arriving at this vacation home, they were at a gas station getting some things, like tools and food and just different things, and they happen to run into this group of college kids that the movie revolves around mainly as well. And these college kids are on their spring break, and essentially what ends up happening is they run into Tucker and Dale at this gas station, and they think that they're creepy. And this is what I mean by where the movie sets it up for a horror film, because the movie does open up with something that happened a few days prior, and it sets it up like it's a genuine horror film. And the music and everything, the way it plays in the background, it gives you that horror vibe, essentially. Like you feel like you're watching a horror movie until Tucker and Dale start talking, and some of the dumb things they say and goofy things they say, you realize quickly, oh, this is not a horror film. Clearly, this is a comedy. So the college kids are essentially creeped out by Tucker and Dale at the truck stop or gas station or whatever. And ironically, the woods that the college kids are camping out in are the same woods that have this vacation home that Tucker and Dale are fixing up as well. Then one night when Tucker and Dale decide to go fishing, they are fishing and drinking beers, and the college kids decide they want to go skinny dipping a little ways across the lake. Well, the main girl, Allison, who is one of the main college kids, she decides that she does not want to do full-on skinny dipping with the rest of her friends, so she decides to go off on her own path and ends up climbing down this rock into the water in her bra and panties near where Tucker and Dale are, not knowing that they're there. So Dale, the heavier set one, ends up basically spooking her by saying Tucker's name out loud. So she falls into the water, and then they soon after realize that she is not coming up out of the water. She's been underwater for a while at this point. So Dale, again, the heavier set one, dives in head first to rescue her from drowning. And the college kids, of course, see this whole thing happening, and they see them putting her unconscious body into the boat. And Tucker stands up and yells, hey, we've got your friend. Hey, we've got your friend here. And the college kids freak out and assume the worst and run away to warn Chad, who is the main college male student. So there's a main female college student and a main male college student. Allison is the main female, Chad is the main male, and then there's a few of their friends just kind of in between that are just essentially like there. So after warning Chad, they run back to the lake and see Tucker and Dale rowing away on their boat with Allison in there. And when Allison wakes up, she has a bandage over her head because when she fell into the water, she hit her head on a rock. And she is wearing new clothes. Tucker and Dale have essentially taken her to this vacation home and have given her clothes, have given her a bed. And when Dale comes in after making her breakfast, she freaks out because she thinks she's being kidnapped. And Dale instantly assumes it's the breakfast that he made her that she does not like. So he goes in to make her something else. Soon thereafter, Allison is trying to get back to her friends, but the whole time while her friends are trying to get back to her, they're also planning on trying to find a way to kill Tucker and Dale because they think they are crazy, savage hillbillies who have essentially kidnapped her, and they think they're planning to kill Allison, when really it's the other way around, and Tucker and Dale are just two misunderstood guys who basically are just trying to help, and they're actually nice people. So fast forward to the part of the movie where the college kids actually come to the cabin to rescue Allison, essentially. When they do, they see that Allison is outside working with Tucker and Dale, and they immediately assume the worst and assume that Dale is trying to make Allison dig her own grave. Clearly, that's not the case. They are actually digging a hole for an outhouse, or as Dale likes to call it, the shitter house. So, of course, the college kids take action from different angles and they try to kill Tucker and Dale, but in the end, they end up all killing themselves all over the property in various gruesome ways. One of which, where Tucker, the taller, skinnier friend of the two, is throwing wood into a wood chipper that they've cut down. One of the friends decides to run at Tucker with an ice pick, trying to surprise attack him from behind, but instead ends up diving at the last second headfirst into the wood chipper. Then one thing leads to another, such as a teen running through the woods and getting stabbed by a stick that was sticking out from a tree. One ran at Dale with a giant spear and ended up tripping over a rock and stabbing himself through the stomach. A couple of them later catch on fire when Chad comes to the cabin to rescue Allison, and he burns the place down. But right before Chad burns the place down, Allison tries to sit Chad and Dale down to settle their differences, essentially by all three of them sitting there with tea and talking as if they're some type of group of old women who are essentially working out their differences between one another. And you find out earlier on in the movie, when the friends are all sitting around a campfire, Chad decides to tell them a scary story, and it explains why he hates hillbillies so much. Many years ago in those exact woods, his mom, or his character's mom essentially, when she was pregnant with him, her and a group of her friends were in those woods having a party, and a psychotic hillbilly came by and basically killed them all and chased Chad's mom down and knocked her out and tortured her and then killed her. So that is why in the movie you'll find out, like I said, that Chad hates and despises hillbillies because he thinks that Tucker and Dale are just like the others, and he thinks that they're all the same because of what happened to his mom years before. One thing leads to another, and when Dale and Allison escape, they realize that Chad is still alive, even though he was in the burning building. They then later on crash the car, and when Dale wakes up, he ends up having to go and rescue Allison from Chad, which then a badass fight unfolds between Chad and Dale, and he ends up rescuing Allison in the end. Though the opening to the movie has confused some viewers in the past because Chad is in the beginning of the movie, but if you notice the way he looks at the beginning of the movie, if you pay clear attention, and then you realize when the movie starts that it said a few days ago, that meant that that ending was based a few days essentially after the events had occurred throughout the movie. In the end, Dale and Allison end up together as a couple, and they essentially move on with the rest of their lives. Overall, like I said, it is a phenomenal movie. It's fantastic. It's hilarious. It is one, like I said, that I could watch over and over again. I can't tell you Even though I said a number, I honestly don't even know how many times I've seen it really. That number is probably pretty unrealistic, but overall, it is a phenomenal movie, and it is one that you definitely need to watch because you will not regret it, and it is one that I guarantee you'll watch over and over a million times. Here are some fun facts about the movie Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. The first one it says here is the movie was a box office success. Despite its modest budget, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil performed well at the box office, further solidifying its cult status as a cult classic. It says here also that Tucker and Dale vs. Evil went through an extensive development process to ensure that every detail was just right, which took approximately 3 years of filming from start to finish. Despite this film being a horror film, as I said, it is also a comedy. It also says here that Tucker and Dale's unwavering loyalty to each other is at the heart of the story, making it a heartwarming aspect of the film. Another fun fact about this movie, it says that the movie's humor appeals to a wide range of audiences. Whether you're a fan of horror, comedy, or both, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil offers something for everybody to enjoy. It also says here that the film's script underwent several revisions before production began. The creative team behind Tucker and Dale vs. Evil worked tirelessly to fine-tune the script, ensuring that it would deliver maximum entertainment value. Another fun fact for this film, it says the movie's pacing keeps audiences engaged throughout. Tucker and Dale vs. Evil strikes the perfect balance between suspenseful moments and comedic relief, keeping viewers entertained from beginning to end. Now, I don't know about you guys, but that's big for me, because have you ever noticed when you're watching a horror film or a comedy or any film really, how the pacing of the film sometimes just seems a little slow or it seems a little too fast? Like there's some scenes that seem to go on forever and ever and ever, and then there's some scenes that just are over so quick that you didn't even get a chance to really capture in your memory what was even happening or get a chance to like catch anything important in the story. So the fact that this movie has a proper level of pacing with suspenseful moments, comedic moments, horrific moments, everything is a really good thing for this movie to have, and just that every movie I think should have. Even though unfortunately not every movie and show has that, it is definitely something that more films and TV shows into the future should definitely consider doing with their shows and movies. But the overall conclusion of these list of facts, there are more, but I have just decided to name a few that stand out. But the overall conclusion is this. It says, in conclusion, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is a must-watch movie for all fans of horror and comedy. With its unique twist of the genre and memorable characters, it is a refreshing and entertaining film that offers plenty of laughs and surprises. The movie beautifully combines elements of horror and comedy, delivering both scares and chuckles throughout the story. The exceptional performances by the cast, especially Tyler Labine and Alan Tudyk, bring the characters to life and add depth to the overall narrative. Whether you're a horror enthusiast or simply looking for a good laugh, Tucker and Dale vs. Evil is a film that will definitely leave you thoroughly entertained. Now, I know most of you out there are more horror fanatics, and I know most of you out there are more comedy film fanatics, but I guarantee you wouldn't think that horror and comedy would go well together. But trust me, they do, especially in this film. Whether you're a horror fan or whether you're just a comedy film fan, I guarantee that if, say, you're a horror fan and you have a friend that's more of a comedy movie fan, they don't really like horror movies, sit them down and watch this movie and have them sit through the whole thing. I guarantee you they will see the comedy in it. Or if you are a comedy movie fan and you have a friend who's into horror movies, there may not be as many horrific things in it that make it horror, but I guarantee you, even though they are more of a horror fan, this is a movie that they will love, and they will actually thank you, or you will thank them after you guys watch it together for them or you showing it to them or you. So without further ado, that concludes episode 2 of my podcast series, Cinema Time. Stay tuned next week for episode 3, guys. Thank you so much again for listening. I really hope you guys enjoy. Like I said, there's going to be a lot more coming to this series later on. More shows, more movies. I'm even going to eventually have guest stars join on the podcast series to talk about movies and shows with me, or whatever our movie or show of the week is that week. This has been your host, Jake Truitt, saying, when the movie starts, Please be quiet and courteous and silence your cell phones and enjoy the show. I'll see you guys next time. Once again, thanks for listening.